You've implemented Pixie, you follow the OAuth recommendations, you might even have implemented Backend-for-Frontend, but there's a good chance your app still has a security gap and you don't really know where that is. Hello everyone, my name is Carla and I'm a staff developer advocate at Auth0. I've seen a lot of the same misconceptions about Backend-for-Frontend, or BFF, and they come up again and again from developers who want to build secure apps. And what's tricky about these misconceptions is that they lead these teams to release apps that are potentially insecure while thinking that they've done everything right. So in this video, I want to go through the ones that I see the most often, starting with the biggest one. Pixie is not a replacement for Backend-for-Frontend. The OAuth working group deprecated implicit grant for SPAs and recommended authorization code with Pixie as the replacement. Pixie is good and you should use it, but somewhere along the way, developers thought that Pixie also takes care of token storage security, and that's not really the case. Here's what Pixie actually does. When your user starts the OAuth flow, your app generates a random secret, the code verifier, and sends a hash version of it along with the authorization request. When the authorization code comes back, your app includes that original secret in the token exchange, and the server checks that the hash matches. And that's it. Pixie protects the authorization code while it's in transit. It stops an attacker from intercepting that code and exchanging it for tokens. And this is really valuable, but it only solves one part of the OAuth flow. Once your app has the tokens, Pixie has done its job. It has nothing to say about where those tokens live in the browser. So think of this scenario. Your user logs in, Pixie works perfectly, and your token ends up in local storage. But now an attacker finds an XSS vulnerability, maybe through a third-party integration or through user-generated content. That malicious script runs in your browser's context. It calls localStorage get item access token, and that's it. The attacker has the token and can make API calls from anywhere. Pixie wasn't even in the room for this attack because it solves a different problem. This is where the Backend-for-Frontend pattern comes in. When your app uses a Backend-for-Frontend as a confidential OAuth client, the token exchange happens on the server side. The tokens live on the server. Your user's browser only gets an HttpOnly cookie instead. Now, when that XSS script runs, it's going to check for local storage, and there's nothing. It's going to check for session storage, and there's nothing. It's going to try to read document.cookie, and that HttpOnly flag is going to stop that too. The tokens were never in the browser to steal. So Pixie and Backend-for-Frontend are actually complementary, not alternatives. If your application includes the risk of XSS vulnerability, and chances are that it does, then Pixie alone is not enough. Backend-for-Frontend is not just a proxy. Now here's something that I've seen in the web. Architectures that are labeled as Backend-for-Frontend, but are actually just acting as reverse proxies, forwarding requests and tokens to a backend. And that's not really Backend-for-Frontend. The defining characteristic of Backend-for-Frontend is that it acts as a confidential OAuth client. It holds a client secret, it handles the whole OAuth flow, and most importantly, the tokens never leave the server. If you use a reverse proxy to forward a bearer token to your API, you don't really solve the problem. The token is still accessible in the browser. The IETF actually has a name distinction for this. A token mediating backend is a special type of reverse proxy. It acts as a reverse proxy only in the step where you're getting the token. In the end, even though all the code exchange ceremonies are happening on the server, the token ends up in the frontend. In a proper Backend-for-Frontend architecture, these tokens never end up in the frontend. These are different patterns with different security properties. So if your backend is passing tokens to your frontend, you're not implementing Backend-for-Frontend. You might be a little bit closer, but you're not there yet. Cookies are not less secure than tokens. This one actually comes up a lot, and I understand where this is coming from because cookies have a complex history. CSRF attacks were a real problem, and a lot of the don't use cookies instinct came from REST API orthodoxy, where stateless communication was almost treated as a virtue. But let's look at what we're actually comparing in a modern context. An HTTP-only session cookie cannot be read by JavaScript. An XSS attack cannot steal it directly. That's really the whole point of that flag. A JWT in local storage, on the other hand, can be read by any script on your page. The attack surfaces are not the same. Yes, HTTP-only cookies are still vulnerable to CSRF. An attacker can trick your user's browser into making an authenticated request from another origin, but with same-site strict and same-site LAX, the attack is pretty difficult in most real scenarios. Add explicit CSRF tokens and it becomes almost impossible. So you're actually making a trade. You're swapping XSS-based token theft, where the attacker gets full and direct access to your API, for CSRF, which needs to trick a user into making a specific request and is heavily constrained by modern browser defaults. That trade is almost always worth making. Backend-for-Frontend doesn't solve all of your auth security problems. Backend-for-Frontend actually shifts the security boundary, but it doesn't eliminate it. When you adopt the Backend-for-Frontend pattern, you trade the token theft problem for a session management problem. Your Backend-for-Frontend now manages session and they need to be secured appropriately. That is actually a good trade in most cases, but it comes with some responsibilities that Backend-for-Frontend doesn't handle for you. CSRF protection. Your Backend-for-Frontend uses cookies, which means that state-changing requests still need CSRF protection. Same side helps significantly, but it's your responsibility to configure this correctly. Session invalidation. When your users log out, you have to revoke the sessions on the server side. Don't just clear the cookie on the client side. If you skip this, stolen session cookies are just gonna keep being valid until they naturally expire. Secure cookie configuration. Secure, HttpOnly, and the right same-side value, all three are required. Missing any one of them will just weaken the whole pattern. Authorization checks in your API. Backend-for-Frontend protects the token in transit. It doesn't automatically secure your API endpoints. You still need proper authorization logic in your backend. So don't implement Backend-for-Frontend and then relax thinking that you have it all covered. You need to take care of all of the security steps. You don't need to rewrite your entire application. The last misconception that I want to address is that implementing the Backend-for-Frontend pattern means that you have to rewrite your whole architecture in your whole application. And I think this is actually something that stops a lot of teams from doing this when it's not necessarily the case. The full vision of Backend-for-Frontend, so a server tailored specifically to fulfill the needs of one frontend, can mean significant re-architecturing. But you don't have to do that all at once to get the security benefits. In practice, a lot of teams just start with the auth layer. First, add a lightweight backend. Node, Next.js server components, ASP.NET Core, Python, whatever fits your stack. That handles the OAuth flow. Then the Backend-for-Frontend exchange authorization codes for tokens, store them in the server side, and issue cookies to the browser. Lastly, your existing frontend will keep continuing doing API calls, but now it's going to be using cookies instead of bearer tokens. Your existing backend APIs often won't change at all. You're inserting the Backend-for-Frontend as an authentication layer, but not replacing your whole architecture. The auth-focused version of Backend-for-Frontend is honestly where most of its security values live anyway, so starting there is actually a very valid approach. So let's wrap up. PKCE protects the authorization code in transit. Backend-for-Frontend keeps the tokens out of the browser entirely. And your session management will keep the Backend-for-Frontend secure. Before deciding whether you want to adopt a Backend-for-Frontend pattern, You have to be honest about your threat model. Does your app handle any sensitive data? Does it load third-party scripts or load user-generated content? Is XSS a realistic risk? If yes, and for most applications it is yes, Backend-for-Frontend addresses that threat in ways that PKCE alone just doesn't. So did you have any of these misconceptions before watching this video? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to go deeper on the Backend-for-Frontend pattern, I'm going to leave a link in the description with the full blog post. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.